Have you ever noticed how we spend the entire day arguing with ourselves, creating scenarios, thinking of responses, judging everything we do? What if I told you that this inner conversation is what's holding you back? That silence, as frightening as it may seem, is what truly transforms. The question is, are you ready to face the emptiness and discover who you really are? Have you realized how much of the weight we carry comes from our own mind? That tireless voice that seems to always be there, like an old radio that doesn't turn off. It starts even before you open your eyes, dictating how the day will go, recalling everything that went wrong yesterday and imagining possible catastrophes for tomorrow. It's a constant, insistent, and let's face it, quite exhausting companion. But here's a truth that can change everything. That voice is not you. Yes, it may sound strange at first glance. After all, we grow up believing that our thoughts are the essence of who we are. How many times have we heard phrases like, "Change your thoughts and you'll change your life"? But what if the real problem isn't what you think, but the fact that you never stop talking to yourself? That voice, which so often sounds like an inner advisor, is actually more like a prison, not made of iron bars, but of words. Words that create judgments, fears, comparisons, and complaints, blocking your freedom. Now imagine yourself sitting by the edge of a calm, crystal-clear lake. The water is so still that it reflects the sky like a perfect mirror, bringing a sense of vastness and peace. But suddenly, you throw a pebble. The ripples interrupt the stillness, and the image disappears. That's your mind, the lake that could be serene, but which the incessant voice turns into a whirlwind. With so much turmoil, how can you see clarity or feel the peace you long for? Your mind, like that lake, needs space to breathe. When you let go of the internal chatter, the need to label, analyze, and judge every moment, you make room for something much greater. It's in that emptiness that joy, clarity, and true peace begin to arise. And believe me, that space is the key to escaping the cage you didn't even realize you were in. Eckhart Tolle calls this the pain body, a kind of accumulation of negative emotions and stories we carry throughout life. It's that feeling that grows when you mentally relive an argument, create disastrous scenarios, or fill yourself with self-criticism. Over time, this pain body gains strength and form, almost like a parallel self that inhabits your mind, fed by fears, doubts, and suffering. And here's the most curious part. It seems so convincing, so familiar, that it's easy to confuse it with who you really are. But let me ask you something. If you were truly that voice that speaks, who is it that's listening? Think about that for a moment. Who hears the voice? Amid the incessant flow of thoughts, there's a space. It's subtle, but it's there. Within that space, you can notice something special, a quiet presence that observes everything. It is not swayed by words. It is deeper than any passing emotion and much more stable than any thought. That silent presence is who you truly are. Various spiritual traditions describe this in different ways, but they all converge on the same idea. In Hindu philosophy, it's the Atman, the eternal, unchanging self. In the Christian view, it's like the gentle voice of God, the one that speaks in the midst of chaos. In Taoism, it's the Tao, the serene, effortless natural flow of things. The problem is that the mind, fascinated by its own noise, resists this idea. It prefers agitation. It wants to analyze, control, and explain everything. But the truth is that the mind is rarely in the now. It jumps between the past and the future, between euphoria and anxiety, never finding rest in the present. This disconnection is what feeds suffering. Look, when you're stuck in traffic and the voice in your head starts complaining, it's not the traffic itself that bothers you. It's the story your mind tells about how you're wasting time, about disrespect or injustice. The same thing happens when you scroll through social media. Your mind creates comparisons, judgments, and resentments. It's these narratives that trap you, not the situations themselves. As A Course in Miracles teaches, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. In other words, what you believe about the world is not the world. Your thoughts are just projections, echoes, shadows cast by the light you have yet to recognize. And as long as you're focused on the shadows, you'll never see the light. You know that rare moment when you stop talking to yourself, even if just for a second. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room and feeling the fresh air from outside. Something shifts. You taste the flavor of freedom. You step out of that endless cycle of internal dialogue and into a wide, peaceful space where consciousness simply exists. But wait, it doesn't mean you have to silence the mind by force. Trying to fight that voice only makes it scream louder. Instead, it's about observing, recognizing its presence without clinging to it. It's like hearing the sound of a lake rather than throwing stones into it. Rumi once said, "Silence is the language of God, all else is poor translation." And when you give space to that silence, you begin to truly perceive it. It is not emptiness or absence, it is fullness. At first it may feel strange, even uncomfortable. That voice in your head will tell you, "You can't do this. You need me. I'm the one who solves things, who plans, who keeps everything running." But what if I told you that the deepest part of you already knows how to live, without all that noise? Just like the sun doesn't need a clock to rise, you don't need incessant thoughts to exist. It makes you think, doesn't it? Who are you beyond that voice? Who do you become when the mind finally quiets down? These questions are not meant to be answered quickly, but to be reflected upon, explored in the silence that lives beyond the chaos. When you look at a still mirror, what do you see? Your image, exactly as it is, clear, undisguised. Now imagine that mirror cracked. The reflection becomes blurry, distorted. That's the effect of the incessant voice, a broken mirror that shows deformed versions of yourself. You're not enough. You need to prove something. You have to fix this before everything falls apart. And why is that voice so loud, so insistent? Because you believe it. But tell me something. Who were you before you learned to listen to that voice? Think back to your childhood. Can you remember a moment when you were completely present? Maybe running barefoot in the yard, drawing with colored pencils, or laughing so hard your belly hurt. At that time, you weren't narrating your life. You were living it. That's the state your true self wants to reclaim. Presence, simplicity, stillness. And what if I told you that, in this very moment, there is a space of absolute peace hidden within you, waiting to be discovered? But attention, the secret to accessing it is not to fight your thoughts or try to control them. In fact, the more you try, the further away it seems. So why is silence so unreachable? Could it be that we're looking in the wrong place? And above all, what are you missing out on by ignoring that stillness? In Buddhism, there's a concept called sati, or mindfulness. It's about being completely present in the now, without criticism or analysis, just being. They say that when the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, he did not do so by fighting his thoughts or trying to shape them. He simply noticed them, allowing them to come and go like clouds passing across the sky. Now let's be realistic. In a world where the phone won't stop vibrating, notifications pop up constantly, and life's demands surround us, finding this kind of silence seems impossible. And even when you try to stop, that internal monologue insists on turning up the volume, filling the silence with even more noise. It's easy to believe that stillness is unreachable, an illusion reserved for spiritual masters. But the truth is, the more your mind is agitated, the more it desperately craves rest. This longing for stillness is as ancient as humanity. Lao Tzu, centuries ago, asked, "Can you wait patiently until the mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action arises by itself?" It's a powerful provocation. The more you try to grasp clarity, the more it slips away. True stillness isn't forced. It happens when you stop fighting and simply allow things to be as they are. An old story illustrates this well. Once, a man went to a monk, eager to discover the secret of enlightenment. The monk suggested he sit by a river and listen. The man spent hours there, just hearing the sound of the water, until, frustrated, he exclaimed, "This makes no sense." The monk smiled and replied, "When you stop seeking meaning, you will begin to hear everything." That's the point. Stillness is not something you achieve or create. It's something you rediscover. It has always been there, buried under constant noise. But how can you access this stillness when your mind insists on chattering non-stop? Start by observing. Just observe. Imagine yourself sitting in a movie theater. On the screen, scenes and stories unfold, but you know you're there only to watch. No matter what appears on the screen, you're not part of the action. Your thoughts work the same way. They pass through your mind, but do not define who you are. It might be uncomfortable at first. That inner voice may scream louder, trying to pull you back into control. It may whisper, "This won't work, you're wasting time." Peace is a myth. Resist the urge to fight it. Fighting only strengthens it. Instead, remember, gently, you are the observer, not the observed. The peace you seek is already within you. It's just a matter of stopping and listening. In Christianity, many call this practice centering prayer, a moment of silent communion with God. There are no words, only presence. Mystics often speak of a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that doesn't come from reasoning, but from the willingness to let go of the need to think. If that sounds complicated, remember, it's not something you need to master. From a single instant of silence, a deep breath, a pause between thoughts, you can begin to dissolve inner chaos. Imagine holding a glass full of water and mud. If you keep shaking it, the dirt stays suspended, clouding everything. But if you set the glass down and let it rest, the mud will settle, and the water becomes clear. The mind works the same way. The more you try to fight your thoughts, the more confused everything seems. But by allowing them to exist without resistance, clarity begins to emerge on its own. It is in this clarity that true transformation happens. In Hindu philosophy, there is a beautiful metaphor about the lotus flower. It grows in muddy waters, but its purity and beauty remain untouched, rising above the mud. The same happens with your true self. It is like the lotus, untouched by the turbulence of thoughts, no matter how intense or disordered they may seem. When you stop identifying with the incessant voice in your head, you begin to access this purity. It's as if the world reveals itself under a new light. A tree ceases to be beautiful or ugly. It simply is. A moment is no longer good or bad. It simply exists. That doesn't mean you'll stop thinking. Thoughts will continue to arise like clouds passing through the sky. But instead of clinging to them, you let them pass. Little by little, you realize these thoughts are not reality, but merely reflections of it. At first, this silence might feel strange, almost uncomfortable. After all, the voice in your head has been your constant companion for so long that its absence might feel like something is missing. But as you go deeper into this state of stillness, you begin to discover something surprising. Silence is not empty. It is full of peace, presence, and life. It is in this space that you begin to see who you really are, not as the distorted echo of your thoughts, but as the serene presence that has always been there behind everything. This is the beginning of true freedom, the first step out of the prison of internal noise. In stillness, you'll realize that this transformation is not something that comes from outside. It has always been within you, waiting for the moment you would stop to listen. There is a transformative moment in each of our journeys when we finally realize that the voice in our head, yes, the one that never stops talking, has been taking up space without paying rent. It's like discovering that a stranger is messing up your house, rummaging through your drawers, and you wonder, why am I on? Letting this happen? That moment marks the beginning of something deep. Some traditions call it the void, that space that arises when the voice in your mind no longer dominates the scene. And here lies the dilemma. For many, the idea of this void is frightening. After all, if you are not the voice that speaks so much, then who are you? What remains when it goes silent? But what if this void is not something scary? What if, in fact, it is filled with everything you've always been searching for? In Taoist wisdom, the void is not a barren abyss, but the place where all possibilities are born. The Tao Te Ching reminds us, we shape clay into a pot, but it is the empty space inside that makes it useful. What matters is not what's missing, but the space that allows us to live fully. Think of a dense forest. The trees are so close together that they barely let any light through. The voice in your mind is like that dense forest, a clutter of thoughts blocking the light of consciousness. But when you begin to quiet it, you create clearings. Light enters, air flows, and you finally notice the landscape around you. This doesn't mean the voice will disappear overnight. It has been your constant companion, almost like an old acquaintance who, let's be honest, can be more annoying than helpful. The secret is not to fight it, but to stop feeding it. Every time you argue, try to control, or rationalize with this voice, you're just giving it more fuel. But what if instead you learned to listen without reacting, as if it were a radio playing in the background? It's there, but you don't have to adjust the volume. Acknowledge the fears, criticisms, and doubts, but let them pass. Gradually, the noise dissolves and silence begins to emerge. Remember the story of Elijah in the Bible? He sought God in a strong wind, then in an earthquake, and finally, in fire. But God was in none of them. He appeared as a gentle, quiet whisper. And what if that voice wasn't a sound at all, but the living stillness that exists behind all the noise? This stillness is not apathetic or empty. It is vibrant, full of intuition, creativity, and wisdom. It is the space where your ideas flourish, where your true essence emerges, far from the chaos of the mind. When you access this silence, life gains a new perspective. Suddenly, you stop reacting to every thought as if it were an absolute truth and begin to live more authentically and fully. Are you ready to free your mind? While you lose yourself in the noise, there is a powerful secret within you waiting to be discovered. What if your thoughts are not who you really are? What would you do if you could transform chaos into calm and fear into freedom? The answer is closer than you think. Imagine yourself walking through a crowded market, noise everywhere, people rushing by, a whirlwind of stimuli. Suddenly that voice in your head speaks, "This place is unbearable. I wish it were quieter. Is that person looking at me? I must look ridiculous." Without realizing it, you're already filled with irritation, tense, and completely unaware of what's happening around you. Now visualize the same scene, but with one detail changed. Instead of being carried away by the thoughts, you simply observe them. The voice complains about the noise, but you don't feed the complaint. You just note it and let it pass. Gradually, the faces around you come to life. The laughter sounds more genuine. The aroma of spices in the air feels more intense. The chaos is still there, but curiously, it no longer bothers you. You're no longer a prisoner of your mind. This is where the beauty of practices like meditation, prayer, or mindful movement lies. They don't exist just to calm or clear your mind, but to help you realize something fundamental. You are not that voice. When you observe it instead of identifying with it, a subtle but powerful transformation occurs. A Zen story illustrates this beautifully. A young monk asked his master, "What is enlightenment?" The master replied, "When you're hungry, eat. When you're tired, sleep." Intrigued, the monk asked, "But doesn't everyone already do that?" With a smile, the master explained, "No. Most people, when they're hungry, get lost in thoughts. When they're tired, they drown in worries. Enlightenment is simply to be. That is the turning point. When you stop listening to the constant internal narrative, something incredible happens. Fear loses its power. After all, fear is fed by the stories created by the mind. What if this goes wrong? What if I'm not good enough? But in the silence of the present moment, those stories have no room to exist. In the now, everything is okay. Think of a bird perched on a branch. It doesn't obsess over whether the branch will give way. It trusts its own ability to fly if needed. In the same way, when you connect with this state of presence, you begin to trust not in external circumstances, but in your capacity to respond to whatever comes. That trust is the essence of surrender. Not a surrender of giving up, but of letting go, of accepting the flow of life without resistance, of realizing that you are much more than the thoughts that pass through your mind. When you access that place, the world feels lighter. That enormous problem that once seemed unbearable loses its weight. You catch yourself laughing at the tragedies invented by the mind, feeling a quiet peace that was always there, just waiting to be found. Change doesn't happen in a snap. It's a path, a crossing that begins in the unknown, where that incessant voice in your head starts to lose strength, making space for something much greater, the fullness of life. And the more you move forward, the more you realize that the emptiness you feared so much isn't really emptiness. It is everything. Have you ever felt that overwhelming loneliness in a crowded room? It's strange, isn't it? It's not the lack of people around that makes us feel alone. It's that inner voice that never stops talking, that insists on convincing you that you're not enough, that something's missing in you, that no one truly sees you. That voice builds an invisible wall between you and the present moment, stealing your chance to deeply connect with others, and even worse, with yourself. But what if you could move beyond that noise? There's something extraordinary waiting there. something that doesn't speak, judge, or create 1,000 stories in your head. It's the heart. It doesn't need words. Its language is silence, a warmth that rises when you are truly present. However, to hear it, you must learn to quiet the mind. In Hindu philosophy, this has everything to do with the concept of Atma, the soul connected to the universe.
The sages say the heart goes far beyond being just a physical organ. It's the center of our true consciousness, the place where the essence of who we are resides. While the mind makes a lot of noise, the heart watches in silence, witnessing the ebb and flow of life. When you stop identifying with the voice in your head, you begin to hear the heart's gentle whisper.
And that whisper brings a truth that no thought can reach. You are already enough. This realization can be unsettling at first. After all, the voice that dominates your mind built its empire convincing you otherwise. It insists that your worth lies in your achievements, your relationships, or how well you meet others' expectations. But as you connect with the heart, these illusions begin to dissolve. Think of the story of the prodigal son from the Bible. A young man leaves everything, squanders his inheritance, and when he finds himself broken and ashamed, he decides to return home. He expects to find anger and judgment, but is met with celebration and love. That story isn't just about forgiveness. It's a reminder that no matter how far you stray, the heart will always be there, open-armed, waiting for your return. And you know what's amazing? To return to the heart, you don't need to fight the voice in your mind. Fighting only gives it more power. The secret lies in shifting your focus. Imagine sitting around a campfire. The flames are beautiful and they dance and fascinate, but they're limited. Now look up. The night sky stretches infinitely, filled with stars. The campfire represents your thoughts, attractive but small. The sky, on the other hand, is the heart, vast and eternal. The more you look at the stars, the less hypnotized you are by the flickering flames. That's the magic of the heart. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand. It simply waits patiently for you to lift your gaze and see what's always been there, your complete and sufficient essence. The heart is like an old friend who's always been there, waiting patiently for you to listen. In the midst of chaos, it doesn't scream, it doesn't push, it just waits. And one of the most beautiful ways to reconnect with it is through gratitude, not the automatic kind, like, I should be grateful for this, but the kind that arises when you truly notice what is here now. The air filling your lungs, the soft warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of a bird in the distance. Gratitude isn't a thought you build, it's a feeling that overflows. Rumi, the Sufi poet, said, "Wear gratitude like a cloak, and it will feed every corner of your life." It's true. Gratitude anchors us in the present, where the heart lives. When you are in that state, the noise of the mind fades, like a radio losing signal. Another bridge to the heart is compassion, especially the kind that starts with yourself. When that critical voice in your head appears full of judgment, pause and ask yourself, how would I treat a frightened child right now? Would you yell? Or would you hold them gently saying, "It's okay, I'm here"? Treating yourself with that same tenderness changes everything. The voice of self-criticism loses power, and you begin to see yourself the way the heart does, as someone whole, worthy of love, deeply human. When practiced well, this compassionate gaze expands. Suddenly you begin to see others more clearly, not just their mistakes or masks, but also their battles, joys, and vulnerabilities. It's as if by freeing yourself from the stories your mind tells, you start to recognize the humanity in everyone around you. In Buddhism, this is called metta, or loving kindness. It's an invitation to radiate love, to yourself, to loved ones, and yes, even to those who test your patience. At first, the mind may resist, saying things like, "They don't deserve it," or "That will hurt me." But the heart has another logic. It knows that love is not a bargaining chip, something you hand out based on conditions. Love is simply what you are. When you choose to live more from the heart, something magical happens. The world feels lighter. Fears, doubts, and that need to control everything begin to dissolve. You realize you can laugh more, breathe more calmly, and find beauty in the simplest things. This doesn't mean life will be perfect. Far from it. Challenges will still arise, and the voice in your head will try to pull you back into its stories. But now, you have a choice. To keep listening to that voice, or return to the heart, where you will always find peace? What's stopping you from living the life you truly want? What if I told you the answer isn't in doing more, but in listening less? No, not listening to others. Listening less to that incessant voice in your mind that sabotages you, limits you, and convinces you that you're less than you really are. There is a secret, a path that few discover, and it begins in the one place you never thought to look, the silence of your heart. But listen, this discovery might change everything. Are you ready to face the transformation you've always longed for, but never allowed yourself to begin? The decision to watch this video until the end might be the most important step of your life. Returning to the heart is not a one-time act. It's an ongoing movement, almost like a silent choreography. Some days, the voice in your mind screams so loudly it seems like the heart is hidden in some far corner. On others, the heart shines so brightly that the voice can barely speak. The secret lies in choosing the heart over and over without giving up. And as you practice this choice, a deep truth begins to emerge. The heart is not separate from the stillness you long for. It is that stillness. It is the place where the mind quiets and life reveals itself in its fullness. That is the heart's invitation, to live beyond the noise, to rest in the truth of who you are, and to let life flow with ease and grace. When you reconnect with that space, you realize that transformation is not a finish line, it's a beginning. In that moment, something shifts inside you. You glimpse the peace that was always there, just beneath the chaos. You feel the vastness of the heart and understand that you are so much more than that incessant voice trying to define you. But here's the real question. How do you live that change? How do you turn this insight into a way of being? The answer doesn't lie in seeking perfection. It's not about silencing the inner voice forever or never again feeling fear or doubt. Those emotions will still appear, just like the voice. The difference is now you recognize them for what they are, passing shadows, not your true self. As the Bhagavad Gita says, fulfill your duty with equanimity, abandoning attachment to success and failure. This teaching does not suggest indifference to life, but rather clarity. When you stop identifying with the voice in your head, you find the freedom to live fully, without the weight of the fear of failure or the constant need for validation. You begin to understand that life is not about controlling every outcome, but about being present, trusting the flow, and acting from a place of inner peace. And here comes mindfulness, perhaps the most powerful tool to sustain this transformation. But don't think of it just as a technique. Mindfulness is a way of living. It's about being fully present in the moment, without getting lost in thoughts about what has already passed or what is yet to come. Imagine yourself savoring a cup of tea. Your mind may try to pull you toward your to-do list or a conversation that didn't go as you wanted. But by practicing mindfulness, you feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, appreciate the subtle flavors, notice the aroma, and hear the sound of the liquid being poured. This seemingly simple moment becomes something extraordinary. Living the change is exactly that, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. It is a constant remembering of who you truly are, even when the voice in your mind tries to convince you otherwise. And step by step, choice by choice, you begin to anchor yourself more and more in the stillness of the heart, not to escape life, but to live it in its most authentic essence with courage, grace, and a touch of wisdom that only those who have faced the noise can understand. A powerful way to live this transformation is to open yourself to service to others. When we stop getting lost in the endless noise of our minds, we begin to truly see people. It's as if suddenly we can perceive their pain, their struggles, and the beauty of their humanity. Acts of kindness begin to arise spontaneously, not out of obligation or a desire for recognition, but because something within us recognizes something deep in another. It's like that famous teaching from St. Francis of Assisi. It is in giving that we receive. In this process, you feel in your very being the connection that unites all life. Those barriers that the mind insists on creating, separation, competition, scarcity, simply lose their meaning. This transformation also involves something that, at first, may seem frightening, embracing the mystery of life. Our mind, always anxious for control, wants answers for everything. It wants to understand the whys, predict what's coming, and ensure that everything goes as planned. But the heart, the heart, loves the unknown. Many sages throughout history have invited us to surrender to the mystery. As Rumi wrote, "Do not resist the changes that come your way. Let life live through you, and trust, even when everything seems upside down." How do you know the new won't be better than what you've known? When we accept the mystery, we stop clinging to old stories. We still plan and dream, but we do so with lightness. We trust that even in unexpected detours, life is guiding us towards something greater: growth, healing, more authentic connections. However, on this path, it's inevitable to encounter moments of doubt. The mind, ever so insistent, may whisper, "This is too hard. You're dreaming too big. Go back to what's safe." But you know what? These moments are not failures. They are invitations. Every time you notice these voices and choose not to follow them, you strengthen your connection with that inner peace that was always there. As Zen master Shunryu Suzuki said, "You are perfect just as you are, and you can still use a little improvement." That paradox is the essence of transformation. There is nothing in you that needs to be fixed. At your core, you are already whole. But as you grow in awareness, you naturally align more with who you really are. And one day, without realizing it, you'll look back and see that the change didn't happen all at once. It took shape moment by moment, step by step. Every small choice brought you here. Every choice you make, every time you decide to silence the stories and the noise in your mind to truly connect with the now, you take a step toward true freedom. But let's be clear, this freedom is not the absence of challenges. It's the ability to find peace and strength even in the midst of them. It's when the insistent voice in your mind no longer dominates you that you begin to see problems as paths to growth, fear as an invitation to be brave, and even pain as a patient teacher that teaches you about love. The great magic of transformation lies exactly there. In the moment you let go of control of that incessant voice, you align with the essence of life. Instead of just watching life from behind a filter of thoughts, you begin to live it with intensity and authenticity. Transformation is not a goal to be reached. It's a journey, a way of being in the world. It's recognizing that you are not the confusion in your mind, but rather the stillness, the feeling, the presence that has always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. And when this realization takes hold, something incredible happens. You realize you don't need to chase transformation, because you already are it. You are the silence behind all the noise, the light that has always been shining beneath the shadows. The moment you stop trying to explain everything to yourself, transformation simply blooms. And from that moment on, life begins to return to you what you have always been: peace, beauty, and a love so deep it feels infinite. Hey, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Not for me, but for you. Reflecting on the voices in our heads and facing the silence we so often fear is not for everyone. It's a courageous act, to dive where most only dip their toes. Thank you for dedicating your time and presence to explore this idea with me. I want you to know that the journey you've begun here is powerful and is already transforming something within you, even if you don't realize it yet. Now let's be serious, or almost. If you liked this video, how about clicking like? It's like a virtual hug that says, "This was helpful to me." And hey, if you think your philosophical aunt or that overthinking friend needs to hear this too, share it with them. Oh, and subscribe to the channel. Promise it's not just me talking to myself. Or is it? Either way, hit the button and join us on this journey of reflection.